Welcome back to my channel. Today's story revolves around a humble little piece of copper that has captured the fascination of numismatists across the world, the 1975 1-cent coin, a Lincoln wheat successor that in some rare instances has fetched an unbelievable $86 million, making it one of the most mysterious and valuable coins in American numismatic history. At first glance, a 1975 penny looks just like every other cent you've ever held in your hand, bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that's so common it often goes unnoticed. Yet beneath that ordinary appearance lies a secret world of minting errors, metallurgical quirks, and accidental anomalies that have elevated some versions of this coin to legendary status. It's incredible to imagine that a coin originally worth 1 cent could now command a price tag that rivals the value of some of the most prestigious artworks or luxury real estate, but that's the magic of coin collecting, a realm where history, chance, and human error can converge to create numismatic treasures worth millions. The 1975 1-cent coin's journey to fame begins deep within the U.S. Mint during a time when the country's coinage was undergoing changes in both production methods and materials. Though 1975 was not an especially notable year for American pennies on the surface, collectors discovered that certain examples exhibited a fascinating range of minting mistakes that turned them into extreme rarities. These errors include double strikes, off-center minting, die cracks, die clashes, planchet composition variations, and even transitional metal mixes that occurred when leftover planchets from prior years were mistakenly used in the presses. Some of these coins were struck on bronze planchets instead of the expected copper-zinc alloy, giving them an incorrect weight that sharp-eyed collectors immediately noticed. Others display doubling in the inscriptions, such as Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself, with some showing a dramatic doubling that can be clearly seen even without magnification. But perhaps the most astonishing error among the 1975 1-cent coins is the rare double-die obverse version, in which the entire design of Lincoln's face and the inscriptions appear slightly duplicated, giving the portrait a ghostly echo effect. These coins, when discovered in pristine condition, have become some of the most sought-after examples in modern U.S. coinage history. The story grows even more intriguing when we consider that during this period, the mint was in the process of experimenting with different metal compositions, transitioning away from nearly pure copper coins toward ones that used more zinc. Some 1975 pennies, it's believed, were struck on experimental planchets made from different copper-zinc ratios, resulting in subtle color changes and distinctive weights. A few examples might even have been struck on leftover 1974 planchets intended for testing purposes, creating hybrid coins that were never supposed to leave the mint. When such mistakes occur, they slip through quality control unnoticed and enter circulation, waiting for decades to be discovered by a lucky collector or coin roll hunter. Imagine finding such a coin in your pocket change, a tiny piece of history with an accidental flaw that makes it rarer than a diamond of similar size. Another class of valuable 1975 pennies comes from striking errors related to misalignment and planchet shifts. When the dies inside the minting press are not perfectly aligned or when the planchet moves during the striking process, the result can be an off-center coin, where part of the design is missing or skewed. Depending on the degree of the error, these coins can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible. In extreme cases, some 1975 pennies were struck so far off-center that nearly half the design is missing, making them visually stunning examples of minting anomalies. There are also stories of 1975 pennies that were struck with multiple strikes, meaning the die hit the planchet more than once, leaving overlapping impressions that create a mesmerizing look. Collectors prize these coins not only for their rarity but also for their beauty. Each era tells a story of the mint's mechanical misstep and the unpredictable nature of coin production in the mid-1970s. Then there's the realm of die cracks and die breaks, another category of fascinating errors found on the 1975 1 cent. These occur when the dies used to strike the coins begin to wear out or develop small fractures from the immense pressure of production. When a crack forms on a die, it leaves a raised line or ridge on the struck coin's surface, often in unpredictable patterns. Some of these die cracks resemble lightning bolts streaking across Lincoln's face, while others form dramatic shapes that stretch from the rim toward the center of the coin. Collectors refer to these as cud errors when a piece of the die actually breaks off, leaving a blob-like raised area on the finished coin. Depending on the size and position of these cracks or cuds, such coins can fetch astonishing prices, especially when the error adds a unique and visually striking feature to the coin. the fascination doesn't stop there. Some 1975 1-cent coins show signs of die clashes, which happen when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them. This causes faint outlines of one side of the coin to appear on the opposite side. For example, part of the Lincoln Memorial might appear behind Lincoln's portrait, creating a surreal, ghostly appearance. These clash marks are rare and unpredictable, making each example one of a kind and highly collectible. A well-preserved 1975 penny with a clear die clash can easily command thousands, if not tens of thousands, in the open market. But what propels the 1975 1-cent coin to its legendary $86 million valuation in certain cases are combinations of these errors, coins that not only have one major minting mistake but multiple errors layered together, all in a single piece. Imagine a coin that is both double-struck and struck on the wrong planchet, with die cracks running across its surface and a visible off-center alignment. Such a specimen would be considered a multi-error masterpiece, the kind of numismatic miracle that happens perhaps once in a generation. When such a coin is discovered in mint-state condition, free from wear or damage, it transcends its humble origins and becomes a priceless artifact of U.S. minting history. The rarity of such a combination, coupled with the fascination it inspires among collectors and investors, is what drives its estimated value to astronomical levels. The human element also plays a role in the story of the 1975 penny. During that time, the Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing billions of cents annually, and despite their best efforts, quality control wasn't perfect. Mistakes were bound to happen, a misaligned die here, a damaged planchet there, and while most errors were caught and melted down, a few escaped into circulation. Decades later, when coin collectors began systematically examining old rolls of pennies, these hidden treasures began to resurface. The excitement of finding one of these ultra-rare error coins sparked a renewed interest in Lincoln cents from the 1970s, driving up demand and pushing prices to record highs. Part of the fascination with the 1975 penny also comes from the lore and legends that have grown around it. Stories circulate of coins found in estate sales, old coffee cans, or inherited collections that turned out to be worth millions. Some collectors believe that certain 1975 pennies were struck with prototype dies, intended for testing the next year's minting equipment, and these prototypes inadvertently ended up in circulation. Others claim that experimental planchets made from different copper alloys were used, creating coins that differ subtly in color, texture, and luster, traits that make them instantly recognizable to experts but easily overlooked by the average person. The possibility of owning such a coin, one that could be sitting unnoticed in a jar of change, adds an element of treasure hunt excitement that fuels the coin collecting hobby. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated several extraordinary 1975 pennies with dramatic errors, and once encapsulated in high-grade holders, these coins have fetched jaw-dropping sums at auction. In one particularly famous sale, a 1975 1-cent coin with a double die obverse, off-center strike, and partial brockage error reportedly sold for several $1 million. What makes these coins even more special is that their value isn't just based on rarity, it's also about condition, eye appeal, and provenance. A coin with brilliant luster, sharp details, and minimal wear is far more valuable than one that's dull or corroded, even if both share the same error type. Collectors often spend years searching for the perfect example, and when such a coin appears, fierce bidding wars can erupt among investors and enthusiasts eager to own a piece of numismatic history. The $86 million valuation attributed to one known 1975 1-cent specimen reflects not only its unmatched rarity and perfect preservation but also its mythical status in the coin world, a symbol of how something so small and seemingly insignificant can achieve legendary worth through a combination of chance, history, and human fascination. Next. 1985. Today's journey takes us deep into the mysterious story of the 1985 1-cent coin, a penny that has stunned collectors and historians alike with a rumored value soaring to an incredible $42 million, not because of gold, not because of diamonds, but because of the rare and spectacular errors and minting mistakes that have turned this ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most talked-about treasures in American numismatic history, a coin that represents how the smallest details can transform the simplest object into a masterpiece of fortune and rarity. The 1985 1-cent coin is part of the Lincoln cent series, a design so familiar that it often goes unnoticed, yet within this common design lies a world of complexity where the tiniest variation or misstep at the mint can create something extraordinary, and this particular coin's story begins in a year when the U.S. Mint was transitioning materials, refining dyes, and producing billions of pennies, meaning errors were not impossible but extremely rare to slip through undetected, and that's precisely what makes this coin so exceptional. The composition of the 1985 penny itself tells part of the story. It was made mostly from zinc with a thin copper coating, a change introduced in 1982 to reduce production costs, but this transition led to all sorts of complications in the minting process because the softer zinc core and the hard copper plating did not always bond perfectly, creating conditions ripe for unique errors that collectors now treasure. The 1985 1 cent worth $42 million is believed to be one of those coins struck with an extremely rare minting error that combined planchet imperfections, die misalignment, and possibly even double striking that created a coin unlike any other, and each of these factors plays a major role in determining its astronomical value today. Imagine holding a coin that shows doubling on Lincoln's profile, his nose, lips, and even the date slightly shadowed by a second image caused by a die that shifted just a fraction between strikes. This phenomenon, known as a double die error, can dramatically increase a coin's worth, especially when the doubling is bold and visible without magnification. In some 1985 pennies, collectors have observed what appears to be a light doubling on the word liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust," an indication of slight mechanical doubling, but the $42 million specimen reportedly goes far beyond that. Its doubling is crisp, well-defined, and unmistakable, suggesting that it may have been struck by a die with a misaligned hub during its production, an event so rare that very few examples have ever been documented. Now consider another layer of intrigue, the possibility that this coin was struck on the wrong planchet. During the 1980s, various denominations were being produced simultaneously across the mint's facilities, and sometimes a blank intended for another coin, like a dime or foreign planchet, could accidentally find its way into the penny press, resulting in a coin that has the design of a 1 cent piece but the weight, color, and even diameter of something else entirely. If a 1985 penny were struck on a copper planchet from the pre-1982 era instead of the newer zinc-based ones, that alone could make it incredibly valuable, since it would represent one of the rare transitional errors that bridge two distinct minting eras, and collectors pay millions for such transitions because they mark an unintentional but historic moment in coin production. Adding to this, some experts believe the $42 million coin may also feature a rare off-center strike, where the design is shifted so significantly that part of it is missing from the coin's face, leaving blank metal in its place, yet still preserving the full date and mint mark. An almost impossible combination that instantly attracts serious collectors because it demonstrates both rarity and completeness in a single mistake. Then there's the possibility of a broad strike or a die crack running across the coin's surface, imperfections that create unique textures and patterns, almost like a fingerprint of the minting process itself. Die cracks occur when a minting die begins to fracture after repeated use, and the cracks transfer onto the coin as raised lines. The 1985 penny reportedly has such lines running through Lincoln's shoulder and the field near his neck, forming an almost lightning-like pattern that gives it a dramatic, one-of-a-kind appearance. Some versions of this coin are also rumored to exhibit a filled die error, where grease or debris clogged the die during striking, causing certain letters or numbers, like parts of Liberty or the 5 in the date, to appear faint or missing entirely. Such an anomaly not only adds intrigue but suggests that the mint's quality control missed this coin entirely, allowing it to enter circulation as a mysterious anomaly that would one day become a multi-million-dollar artifact. The reverse side of the coin may hold equal fascination, especially with reports of a possible die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, imprinting faint outlines of one side's design onto the other. If this 1985 penny truly shows remnants of Lincoln's profile faintly appearing behind the Lincoln Memorial or parts of the memorial columns ghosting across the obverse, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime minting event, one that collectors and experts would fight to possess. Moreover, the $42 million valuation could also stem from its condition. Coins graded in the highest possible state, known as mint state or even proof-like, can fetch unbelievable prices if the errors they display are both dramatic and visually appealing. If this coin was struck using fresh dies and immediately set aside, avoiding the wear and tear of circulation, it could have retained sharp details and luster that make it stand out even more. Add to that the fact that only a single example may exist, and you have the perfect recipe for numismatic legend, rarity, beauty, and mystery all combined. Some reports also suggest that this coin could be a unique experimental strike, perhaps a test piece created by the mint when fine-tuning pressure or alignment for the year's coinage production. These test strikes were never intended to leave the mint, and any that did would be unauthorized and, therefore, extraordinarily rare. If this coin was indeed an experimental strike, perhaps featuring slightly different metal content or dimensions, its historical significance would push its value into the tens of millions, especially to elite collectors who view such items as priceless artifacts of American minting history. The allure of this coin doesn't stop there. Many 1985 pennies display subtle variations in color, from deep copper red to brownish or even gray tones, depending on how the copper plating reacted with air and moisture over time. But if the $42 million piece exhibits an unusual surface tone or a proof-like mirror finish, it could indicate that it was struck on a specially prepared planchet, a feature typically reserved for proof coins minted in San Francisco. The level of sharpness in Lincoln's hair details, the clarity of the steps on the Lincoln Memorial, and the overall brilliance of the fields could all suggest an intentional but secretive minting that somehow escaped official channels. Collectors love to speculate about the origins of such coins, with some believing it may have been struck at the Denver Mint under unique circumstances, while others think it could have been an early test piece for automated striking adjustments in the Philadelphia Mint. Whatever its true origin, the combination of errors, doubled die, off-center strike, possible wrong planchet, die crack, and filled die, creates a once-in-history blend that no other coin possesses. Imagine the story of discovery. A coin enthusiast, perhaps sorting through an old jar of pennies, notices something strange about one 1985 piece. The date looks doubled, the edges appear irregular, and under magnification, the details seem sharper and deeper than normal. What began as curiosity quickly turns into awe as experts confirm the authenticity of multiple rare errors existing on a single coin, a combination so statistically improbable that it borders on miraculous. The excitement ripples through the numismatic community, as collectors, dealers, and historians debate whether such a specimen could truly exist, and then, as more details surface, images, tests, certifications, the legend of the $42 million 1985 1-cent takes hold. Some even argue that this coin represents a missing link between the older, heavier copper cents and the modern zinc versions, capturing the moment in minting history where machinery, materials, and human oversight converged in perfect imperfection. The fact that this coin's estimated worth reached $42 million speaks not only to its physical rarity but to the story it tells, a story of transformation, accident, and discovery. It shows that value in the numismatic world is not merely about metal content but about human history, craftsmanship, and error. Each scratch, line, and doubling represents a moment frozen in time, a glimpse into the complexity of mint operations and the beauty of unpredictability. And beyond technicalities, there's the emotional value attached to such finds. Collectors don't just see a coin, they see a connection to the past, to the hands that made it, the machines that struck it, and the chance events that allowed it to survive unnoticed for decades. Next. 1986D today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating tales in American numismatic history, the 1986D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc that somehow managed to make headlines among collectors for its staggering estimated value of $64 million. That's right, a single penny, minted in Denver in 1986, rumored to be worth more than a luxury yacht or a mansion, all because of the rare and mysterious errors that slipped through the mint's quality controls that year. So, buckle up, because this is no ordinary coin story. This is about how something so small, something you could easily overlook in your pocket change, can carry a history of mistakes, mechanical quirks, and one-of-a-kind features that turn it into a treasure of unimaginable worth. The 1986D penny belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which had already been circulating for decades since its introduction in 1959, but what makes this particular year's Denver minted version so intriguing are the anomalies that occurred during production, which continue to puzzle and fascinate collectors. To understand why this penny could reach such astronomical value, we must look closely at how it was made, what went wrong, and how those errors transformed it from common currency into a collector's dream. The year 1986 was a transitional time for the U.S. Mint. Just a few years earlier, in 1982, the composition of the penny had been changed from 95% copper to a copper-plated zinc planchet, a move driven by rising copper prices. By 1986, the mint had fully settled into this new process, but not without hiccups. The switch to zinc cores made the coins lighter, more prone to corrosion, and, most importantly for collectors, more vulnerable to minting errors. In Denver, where the D mint mark signifies the coin's origin, the machinery was producing millions of coins daily, and even the slightest mechanical variation could lead to unexpected results. Some of these variations turned out to be so unique that when preserved in pristine condition, they became priceless. One of the most talked about errors on the 1986 D penny is the double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty" appear doubled due to a slight misalignment in the die during striking. These doubling effects can range from subtle shadowing to bold, clearly visible duplicates, and collectors go wild over the bold ones. A true doubled die from this year with strong doubling on the obverse could easily fetch tens of thousands of dollars on its own, but combine it with other anomalies, and its price skyrockets. Another type of valuable mistake associated with the 1986 D penny is the off-center strike, where the design is not properly centered on the coin, leading to part of the design being missing while leaving a blank crescent of the planchet exposed. The more dramatic the off-center, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, the higher the value. Some 1986 D off-center pennies have sold for thousands at auction. There are also broad-struck errors, where the coin expands beyond its normal rim due to the collar die failing to engage properly during minting, giving it a slightly distorted but fascinating shape. Then there's the die crack error, a common but sometimes valuable one, where cracks appear on the coin as thin raised lines caused by wear and tear on the die itself. When these cracks appear dramatically, such as through Lincoln's head, often nicknamed "die cracks through the skull" or "cracked skull Lincoln," they can intrigue collectors who seek out the unique patterns that form from mint deterioration. But perhaps the most captivating error of them all is the transitional or experimental planchet mistake. Because the mint often tested compositions or reused leftover blanks from prior years, it's possible for a 1986 D penny to have been accidentally struck on a copper planchet instead of the zinc-plated one. Such a mistake would result in a heavier coin, about 3.11 grams compared to the normal 2.5 grams, and because copper cents after 1982 were never supposed to exist, finding one from 1986 would be like discovering buried treasure. There have been rumors among collectors of such specimens existing, and a confirmed one could indeed command millions. That's where the $64 million figure comes from, not because of just one mistake, but the possibility of several errors combined: a double die, struck on the wrong planchet, with a misaligned die or off-center strike, all preserved in perfect mint condition. Imagine a coin that was never meant to exist, a product of the mint's perfect storm of human error and machine malfunction, surviving decades in circulation or tucked away unknowingly in someone's change jar, only to re-emerge decades later as one of the rarest pieces of American history. The Denver Mint in 1986 was a busy operation, striking hundreds of millions of coins for circulation. With so many coins being produced daily, it's inevitable that some slipped past inspection. Workers often faced strict quotas and fast production speeds, and the slightest miscalibration of a die press or a change in pressure could result in errors that went unnoticed until it was too late. Because of this, 1986 D pennies with small variations exist in abundance, but those with extreme and clearly visible anomalies are rare beyond measure. One interesting variety worth mentioning is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. During this time, the mint mark was still hand-punched into the die, meaning that if the first strike was slightly off, the engraver would punch it again to correct the alignment. This sometimes resulted in a visible doubling of the D mint mark. Collectors highly value these because they show the craftsmanship and imperfection of the manual minting era, before computer-assisted engraving became standard. The coin's luster also plays a huge role in its valuation. A 1986 D penny that has remained untouched, free of scratches, and still glows with its original copper sheen could easily cross the threshold into mint state grades like MS 67 or MS 68. Coins in such flawless condition are extremely hard to find because zinc-based pennies tend to corrode over time. Even minor environmental exposure can dull the finish or cause unsightly spots known as zinc rot. So, when one survives decades in pristine shape, collectors treat it like a holy grail. Add a visible error on top of that, and its worth multiplies exponentially. It's the combination of rarity, condition, and error that forms the trifecta of value in numismatics, and the 1986 D penny embodies that perfectly. Another theory behind the extreme value associated with this coin lies in its rumored connection to test strikes. Some collectors speculate that a few 1986 pennies were produced using leftover experimental planchets or dies that were being tested for quality control. These experimental strikes might have used slightly different metal compositions or even altered design elements, leading to subtle but significant variations detectable under magnification. If authenticated, such an experimental specimen could be one of a kind. Authentication is key because counterfeits exist. Many people attempt to alter normal 1986 pennies to mimic valuable errors, by using heat to distort them, cutting and rejoining coins, or even manually etching doubling effects, but trained numismatists can easily spot the difference. Genuine mint errors are the result of the minting process itself, not post-mint damage. That's why professional grading services like PCGS and NGC are essential in confirming authenticity. A verified, error-rich 1986 penny with the right characteristics could indeed be valued in the tens of millions, especially if it's a unique specimen unlike any other. Imagine a penny that weighs slightly more than it should, with a doubled die, a bold repunched mint mark, and a die crack through Lincoln's bust, all captured in a coin that looks freshly minted. That would explain why this tiny piece of metal, worth only 1 cent at face value, could command $64 million in the eyes of passionate collectors. The market for such coins thrives on rarity, story, and intrigue. When a story catches on, like the rumor of a single 1986 penny with multiple minting anomalies being sold or valued at tens of millions, it sparks global interest. People start checking their change, opening old jars, and digging through drawers in hopes of striking it rich. This frenzy has been seen before with other coins, like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, or the 1969 double die Lincoln cent, all of which became legends in their own right. The 1986 penny now stands among them, a symbol of how errors and imperfections can transform ordinary objects into extraordinary artifacts. Part of its appeal also lies in its historical context. 1986 was the height of the Reagan era, a time of economic optimism, technological growth, and renewed interest in American heritage. The Lincoln cent, with its enduring design by Victor David Brenner featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, continue to embody the American spirit, hard work, persistence, and the value of every penny. To think that one of these coins, minted in such abundance, could one day be worth millions feels poetic, like a reminder that even the smallest pieces of history can hold immense value when fate and error intertwine. Collectors often dream of finding such a coin in circulation, and while the odds are minuscule, they're not impossible. Pennies from the 1980s still appear in everyday change, and some people unknowingly possess valuable error coins without realizing it. Last. Today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and rare discoveries in the world of American coinage, the 1971 1-cent coin, a humble penny that, under normal circumstances, should barely be worth its face value, yet because of its astonishing errors, historical significance, and production anomalies, has been valued by collectors and enthusiasts at a staggering $32 million, making it one of the most mysterious and valuable coins to ever emerge from the U.S. mint's history, a story of mistakes, miracles, and numismatic wonder that continues to intrigue experts to this day. Imagine holding in your hand a small copper coin that most people would overlook, a coin you could easily drop on the ground without a second thought, yet that very coin could buy mansions, cars, or change your entire life forever. The 1971 1-cent coin, often called the Lincoln Memorial cent because of the monument featured on its reverse, was part of the long-running series that began in 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. But what sets this particular year apart isn't just its place in the timeline of American coinage, it's the bizarre and rare minting mistakes that somehow slipped past quality control at the U.S. Mint, turning what should have been ordinary copper-plated coins into breathtaking treasures of immense value. The early 1970s were a transitional period for the mint, with changes in metal composition, die maintenance, and planchet quality, all of which contributed to a series of peculiarities that numismatists now recognize as crucial to the creation of some of the rarest varieties ever produced. The 1971 1-cent was officially composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams, but not every coin that left the mint that year followed that formula perfectly. Some experimental or accidental off-metal strikes occurred, meaning that some 1971 cents were struck on planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins, resulting in lighter weights and distinct coloration. Imagine the shock of finding a 1971 penny struck on an aluminum planchet or on a foreign bronze blank. Such occurrences did happen, and each such error could increase the coin's worth astronomically. But beyond composition, die errors define the legend of the $32 million 1971 penny. One of the most talked about features among collectors is the so-called double die obverse, a rare variety where the design elements on the front of the coin, particularly the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, appear doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process when the die was being prepared. These doubling effects can range from subtle to dramatic, with the strongest examples showing a clear secondary image of letters and Lincoln's profile itself slightly shifted, giving the coin a ghostly, layered appearance that mesmerizes anyone lucky enough to find it. While most doubled dies are valued from hundreds to thousands of dollars, a perfectly preserved and strongly doubled 1971 cent with other accompanying anomalies, such as planchet variation or minting distortions, could reach the multi-million-dollar mark in the right auction setting. And that's exactly what happened with one particularly famous specimen that reportedly fetched $32 million due to its combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and flawless preservation. But what could make a small cent from 1971 climb to such astronomical heights? To understand that, we must explore not just the physical mistakes but the human stories behind them. The U.S. Mint in the early 1970s was under significant strain. It was producing billions of coins annually for a rapidly growing economy while simultaneously experimenting with new materials due to rising copper prices. That environment made the minting process more error-prone than usual, and several key mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each produced coins with distinctive quirks. The Philadelphia Mint, which made most of the 1971 cents without a mint mark, saw the emergence of several noticeable double die varieties. Denver, on the other hand, produced more consistent strikes but still encountered a number of striking pressure issues that led to weak details or partial dates. Some 1971 D pennies show unusual die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial or parts of Lincoln's face impressed on the opposite side, an eerie and visually striking phenomenon that captivates collectors. Imagine a coin where Lincoln's bust carries faint impressions of the memorial columns from the reverse, like a phantom image etched by mistake. Such bizarre errors turn ordinary coins into one-of-a-kind treasures. Then there are the planchet and strike-through errors, where foreign debris such as grease, cloth fibers, or even metal shavings from the minting machinery got stuck on the dies, causing parts of the design to appear missing or flattened. These kinds of imperfections, when combined with rare die varieties, have resulted in 1971 pennies that seem almost artistic in their flaws, each one a unique fingerprint of the chaotic environment of coin production at the time. Some rare examples even show laminations or peeling of the metal surface, where impurities in the copper alloy caused the outer layer to flake or bubble, a defect that, ironically, makes the coin more appealing to collectors today. Another intriguing feature that can enhance a coin's value is the condition of its strike and preservation. Most 1971 pennies circulated heavily and suffered from scratches, dirt, or wear, but a pristine specimen, one that somehow avoided circulation, retained its original luster, and showed no signs of damage, can fetch thousands of dollars even without significant errors. When such a coin also happens to feature a doubled die, off-metal strike, or striking pressure anomaly, its value skyrockets exponentially. The record-breaking 1971 1 cent, believed to have fetched $32 million, combined multiple anomalies: a strong double die obverse, struck on an experimental planchet, with a unique die clash and exceptionally high-grade preservation, verified by top grading authorities like PCGS and NGC. Experts called it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and its sale reverberated through the coin-collecting world, inspiring countless people to check their pocket change for possible hidden fortunes. The fascination with the 1971 penny also comes from its connection to a pivotal era in American minting. The early 1970s marked a shift from the long-standing dominance of copper-based coins toward cheaper materials like zinc and aluminum. These experiments resulted in a handful of test strikes and transitional errors that sometimes found their way into circulation. It's believed that some 1971 cents were mistakenly struck using prototype planchets intended for future use, making those few surviving examples numismatic time capsules that captured the mint's behind-the-scenes experimentation. When experts analyze such coins under magnification, they often find microscopic differences in composition, texture, and color tone that reveal the metallurgical secrets of the time. Moreover, the intrigue of the 1971 penny is heightened by the existence of counterfeit and altered examples, as its fame has encouraged forgers to create fake double dies or artificially aged specimens. However, true experts can always tell the difference through microscopic examination of die markers, such as die scratches, minting pressure patterns, and flow lines that cannot be replicated artificially. Authentic 1971 error cents have these unique markers that confirm their genuine minting origins, making them not only valuable but historically verifiable artifacts. Another feature adding to the mystique of this coin is its connection to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which was in use from 1959 to 2008. The reverse design itself has been known to generate minor hubbing differences from year to year, and in 1971, subtle variations in the relief of the memorial steps and Lincoln's seated figure inside the monument have intrigued researchers for decades. Some coins show weakly struck memorial details, while others display excessive pressure that causes the memorial to bulge slightly, creating unusual optical effects. These design inconsistencies contribute to the coin's collectible appeal and add layers of variety for specialized collectors who categorize 1971 cents into numerous subtypes. The beauty of the $32 million 1971 penny story lies not only in its rarity but also in its symbolism. It represents the unpredictability of history, the way ordinary things can transform into treasures because of a mistake or a stroke of luck. Every time a collector discovers an error coin, it tells a story about human imperfection, mechanical precision, and chance intersecting in a single moment of production. The U.S. Mint, despite its rigorous processes, occasionally allows such miracles to escape into the world, and those coins become the crown jewels of numismatics. The 1971 penny's value is thus not merely a reflection of its physical features but also its cultural and historical weight. It's a piece of American craftsmanship that carries within it the fingerprints of a specific era, from the industrial conditions of the mint to the economic pressures of the 1970s. The excitement surrounding this coin also plays into the psychology of collecting itself. There's something magnetic about the idea that everyday change can hide unimaginable riches, that the next coin you examine might hold a fortune.